Hey everyone, I'm Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her podcast. I am honored to welcome you to Telesa Wright. She's a powerhouse whose influence bridges businesses, healing, and also empowerment. She's a luxury certified real estate broker, elevation coach, motivational speaker, and award winning author who has also built a multi state real estate brand throughout her amazing real estate company. Beyond her success, Telesa has also been an author for three transformational books, including her latest book, Look Back for What, which is also birthed as a Patio Conversations. And we all love a good conversation. And also, she is a movement of creating a safe space for women to heal and rise together. She is also an amazing founder of LIT, Ladies in Training, guiding young girls, I apologize. And she also is confident, teaching them confidence and also etiquette. You guys, I would like to welcome you to Lisa Wright. Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I am so happy to have you. I was looking at everything that you are doing, and it's so inspiring. I'm really
Girl, it sounds like a lot when I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder I need a nap.
yes. And you know what's so crazy? At first, when I did it, I'm like, I gotta shorten this because this girl is doing a lot, and I still had more. I was like, we need to know all of this.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Gosh, oh my gosh. And it's so crazy because it's like when people are telling me what I'm doing, then I think to myself, crazy enough, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. And it's like, girl,
You're doing it all. You're doing it all. God is making a way for you to give all your fruits and labor to his children, okay?
oh girl, he's so good to me. And so listen, you say God and I almost just go into another zone, but yeah, it's all God and it's all good. So
hmm
thankful.
so your journey spans, of course, with real estate coaching, writing, and ministry of healing. What was the pivotal moment that set you to this path?
Honestly, I wish I had like some amazing story to how I ended up here and there, but it literally with everything that I do is like God opened the door for me. Situational, something happens, like real estate. I was a stay-at-home mom and my husband was a real estate agent. And one day he just asked me, like, can you go, with me to show this house to this couple? Because he said, for some reason, I feel like they're ready to buy. And then I get them ready to write the offer. And then all of a sudden, they don't want to buy. So I need you to go read the room for me. So I went with him and I got there and I said, oh, it's easy. You're selling the house to the wrong person. Because in California, just like me, most of the moms stayed at home and the husbands worked. And so my husband was talking to the man because he had the money. But I said, it's obvious who's buying the house. I said, it's just like us. You pay, but I am the deciding factor because this is where I work, where
hmm
our kids are. And so from there, he was just like, can you go with me to, there's another couple. Can you go with me? And then his broker, he was with Coa Banker at the time, said, Lisa, you have got to get your license because you're going to get us sued. She said, you're selling houses and you're good at it. And I said, I'm not selling houses. She said, no, you're selling houses. You just don't know you're selling houses and you're good at it. And we're going to get sued. And I think it was because people were giving feedback about how good I was.
Mm.
So I just kind of fell into real estate like that. So I got my license not to get the broker sued. And, and then realized that I was good at it. And so then I ended up there. And then God was encouraging me to share my story with people from my background because I was always so secretive and withdrawn, with my story. And I don't know, I used to think that it would push people away from me as I was trying to build a new life. And God said, tell your story. And so I would share with people, like kind of one on one when they're in a certain situation. Because in my mind, I thought, there's really not much I hear about that I hadn't gone through, which is crazy, but I was like, I could help her with that by sharing this. So I started sharing just little things. And then with this most recent book, I asked God a specific question, what he wanted me to do. And he said, tell your story. And I said, I've been telling my story. He said, no, tell your story. Tell all of it. Because I was telling it in pieces, telling the parts that made me comfortable, the parts that I felt like people would be most comfortable with, in my testimony. So I really can't say I did anything magical. All I can say is that God opened doors and I walked through them.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is inspiring. It really is. So, to ask you this, what is one of the uncomfortable moments of your story that you find it hard for you to talk about, but most likely is quite inspiring to for you to help someone else in the same predicament?
I think I would say relational. Um, I just started really telling people, like a lot of people, that I got married in 4 months. But the story behind it is the most amazing thing. Because as I got older, I started thinking people gonna think you crazy for saying stuff like that. But as of today, 19 years ago, I got on a flight, a one-way flight with no money. I had never flown because I was certified claustrophobic. Um, I didn't know where I was going. I literally prayed. I prayed a prayer first and I said, God, I'm done because I was suicidal. That's another thing that I used to be so uncomfortable sharing. I was suicidal and I was just so over it. I was like, God, there's got to be more to you. And there's got to be more to life than this. I'm going home. I'm a single mom. I literally probably cried myself to sleep every night. I worked so hard. And then I had all this high energy. So nobody could tell that I was probably one of the most depressed people ever, but I made people laugh. I danced on top of tables. And I was just, just so full of energy. So nobody knew how sad, broken, and busted I was. And I just kept it to myself. But I prayed and I asked God to, I said, if there's got to be more to life than this. If there's got to be. If this is it, then this is it for me because I don't know how to continue to live. It was just so much pain, so much pressure, and so much of nothing. And so today, 19 years ago, I believe that God had told me to go to California. And that was like one of the scariest things I've ever done. I had every excuse under the sun not to go, but God was removing those things out of my way little by little. I mean, even to the point where I was like, I believe in respecting the laws of the land, and I had a lease in place. And I just didn't think that God would want me to break a lease because that's like breaking the rules. So I was talking to the manager over there, and I told her that I was thinking about going to California and blah 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 because this would be after, because that delayed obedience after my lease was up. This is what I was thinking I was doing. She said, why don't you go now? I said, because I'm in a lease. She said, baby, when God tells you to do something, you do it. You don't let the lease, you don't let nothing get in your way. And she said, I will release you from the lease.
Oh,
So she released me from my lease. I got on that plane with no money, not knowing where I was going to go, based on a dream from God and a word that I thought I heard. And I looked at the map, closed my eyes, and I pushed my finger down and I said, okay, I'm going to Lax, California, LAX. But
wow.
I'd never flown. I had never been anywhere. Certified claustrophobia from abuse as a child. So I'd never flown. So I didn't know anything about California. That's why it's a big state. So that's why I put my finger on something and it landed on LAX, but I thought that was Lex. So
Wow, that is amazing.
no.
And look back for what you share your deeply personal lessons. What was the hardest chapter to write and what healing did it bring to you?
Oh gosh. I think me writing about intimacy, which is one of the things that I really thought I was real good at being intimate, but really I was good at having sex. And
Mm,
so it's when I got married that I realized that I had intimacy issues, I had trust issues, I had rejection issues, and I had an amazing husband, have an amazing husband, which I met in California. That's what I was going to tell you. Crazy enough, God sent me across that water and met my husband the next day. So we've been married for 19 years now. But he was so gentle with me and so kind and patient with me. But it was really hard for me to talk about the abuse. It was real hard for me to actually acknowledge the abuse and the reason why I responded the way I responded to some things. Say, for instance, I talk about this one particular issue where my husband walked up behind me and I was washing dishes and he touched me and I just started screaming and yelling at him and he was like, "What happened?" And I really didn't know. I just told him, "You made me mad." And he said, "I see that, but I'm trying to figure out what did I do to make you mad?" And then the more searching I did, I realized he just caught me off guard and I went back to being a child who couldn't defend herself, and he didn't have permission to touch me. And so it triggered me, and I just felt out of control. And I just, I had a meltdown. So I realized, over the years that I had intimacy issues. I didn't know how to let somebody in, I didn't know how to be close, I didn't know how to do any of those things. And um, so me talking about sexual abuse, I think, was one of the hardest things. But then I'm doing it again. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm doing it again because I feel like I'll start crying if I talk about the hardest thing I wrote about in my book. But that's the question you asked. So guess what? Lisa's gonna be honest. So my brother, who I raised, raped my daughter, and I wrote about that because there were so many layers to that I had to overcome. Because one, my brother had to been at my house because I felt like he should have been at my mom's house because that was her child. But she wouldn't let him live there, so I couldn't let him be on the street, and I begged her to take him. So there was that issue where I blame my mom for not having her own kids in her space, which I had an issue with that forever because I raised kids my whole life, my siblings, help with them. So I had those issues. So quite honestly, I blamed her because I felt like they shouldn't have been in my house. Then I felt betrayed because my brother, how could you? After everything I've done for you, and I made sure you were safe and you were like a child to me, and you come in, and I had spent my entire life protecting my kids from outside, wouldn't let them spend a night anywhere. Didn't, I just did the absolute most trying to keep them from going through what I went through, and then you coming into my house and you violate me in my house. So I talk in the book about having to forgive my brother, having to forgive my mom, having to forgive myself, which is the biggest challenge. That was the biggest thing because I also blamed me for not seeing it, not knowing it, but it was the generational curse. So that was the toughest topic I think that I covered in there that I had to overcome and how I overcame it. And it wasn't like a one day decision, it was a process.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm gonna be honest with you too. Even when I came on, I feel your spirit, your guardedness. Like you're very guarded, and it's like you gotta feel things out for you to feel comfortable
Yeah.
where you're at. And that's one of my main things of me having a safe space of my podcast show, because I want everybody to feel like they can be themselves, they could talk about anything and feel comfortable when
Hmm.
they in spaces like this, because it's hard when you in media and you're going into a media and you never know what they're going to say or how they are as a person overall. So I want to say I appreciate you for even getting yourself to that point to even share that personal experience that you had. You're safe with me.
Thank you. But yeah, you pegged me. It's something that's why I tell people like you can be healed and healing at the same time. You don't have to be one. It could be both. And that's me. I'm healed and healing. And that's one of my biggest struggles is trust. And so I have to be intentional and then remind myself you're doing it again, which is what I thought to myself, T, you're doing it again. Answer the first question.
It's okay. It's okay. It's natural to be that way. And sometimes like the way things are now today, you have to be that way because you don't know what you're running into or who you speak into and how
Right.
they're going to translate that in later in life, turn it against you.
Yes.
It's really, really hard because I'm like that myself. And it creates you to be an introvert. And it takes you a while to actually get comfortable with people because people can make you feel uncomfortable or hurt again, all over again later when you done put so much trust into them. So I understand exactly how you feel.
Yeah. I'm always saying like the place I'm coming from is not telling you what to do. I come from a place of where we're healing together, So you talk, I talk. That's why I love the patio conversations because the women get to choose who they bring into their environment so that they can be honest, so that they can create their own safe space and then allow me to come into that space. So I never choose who they invite. I never choose how they do it. I just show up with myself, my vulnerability, and I let them know right off, which helps me open up when I tell them that I am guarded. So you use the perfect words. I
Definitely. So what like with so much things that you have experienced in life and you built a multi-million dollar career in real estate while raising your six children, how do you balance from ambition, motherhood, being a wife, and faith without losing yourself completely?
Well, I can't say that I've not lost myself in the process. I can say that I realized that's what was happening, and then I had to pivot. But in this day and time, I really don't believe in balance. I believe that when we think about balance, we struggle so hard to try to
Yeah.
balance things out. And I'm also starting to understand that somebody lied to us when they told us we could do it all.
You ain't lying.
We cannot. We are not built to do it all, and that's okay. I'm just now starting to realize that in the last few years. I'm like, I could do it all. I forget who said it, but somebody said we just can't do it all well. And
Mm.
so I took a page from my husband's book, and he said, babe, it's never about balance, it's all about dancing. He said, so some seasons you're going to dance with the kids more because, kids got the sports and stuff like that. You're going to be contributing more there. And then some days you'll be contributing more to work, and sometimes you'll be contributing more to our marriage. You deal with things as they come. I try to prioritize my children, which is one of the reasons why I chose the career that I chose. It's because it gives me the flexibility so that I don't have to miss things. So they are my priority. I make sure I'm at games, I'm at, award ceremonies. I'm not we demonize people that make money because we're like, oh, they should abandon everything, but it's not necessarily true. The actually money gives you freedom to be able to do the things that's more important to you. When you see people that spend all of their time with money, it's because of their priorities. It's not because they don't have a choice. So I don't necessarily look at it like balance. I just look at it like I pay attention to the thing that needs to be paid more attention to in that season. And so right now, my children are adults. I got my baby is 14, and he barely even has anything to say to me other than something that costs money or something that requires a parent. So I have to have intentional conversation with him, so he doesn't need me as much, is what I'm saying. He goes to his older brother who is also driving and doing everything that we can do. So I'll say, do you want me to take you here? It's like, oh, is it okay if Isaiah takes me? So he'd rather his brother take him where he needs to go, so I don't have to spend as much time with my kids, as I used to. Now I spend more time with this because real estate is what I do for a living. Empowerment is what I live to do. And so I know I can't just sell real estate without this portion of it because then I lose myself. This is
Wow.
how I remain true to myself.
Wow. So, as far as you being a co-owner of Bespoke Realty, you've built a brand that's known intentionally. What does the intentional business look like to you?
Well, intentional, like my office, for instance, we don't have on some brokers' websites, you can put your license with them without even interviewing. I like to talk to the agents and see if we're, if we work well together, if we are what they need and if they are what we need, if it's a good fit. So I don't accept all agents, any agents. So we're intentional about who we have in our space. And then with our clients, we don't treat them like everybody is the same, everybody's needs are the same. So questionnaires, we want to know what works best for you and what your goals are. Are you looking for a home that is going to be your last stop? Are you looking for a home for the next 3 to 5 years? So we customize and tailor our services to our clients. So we're very intentional about how we do business, who we do business with. And even if it's a client that we feel like we can't meet their needs, we have no problem referring them off so that they can be with somebody that, you know, is more beneficial to them. So we consider the client, and we always put people before profits. So that's our main thing. An example, if I had the sweet older lady who called me, and I do believe in protecting our elderly, and she said, I don't want no realtor. I'm thinking, you calling a realtor, but she's like, I don't want to pay no realtor. I just want to make sure that this makes sense because I'm trying to sell my house. I already got a buyer. And she went on and on. And long story short, I told her what she needed to know. I gave her a report. I told her, what's important for her to understand. And then I didn't think I would hear from her again. She called me back again. She said, I got a contract. They said this, that, and the other. And she wanted to, so I told her, go ahead and send me the contract. Mind you, she's not paying me anything. So I look over the contract, and the contract wasn't in her favor. So I told her, I said, this contract isn't in your favor. It doesn't have any considerations for you. I don't even think an attorney would take it. So we went over there and I explained the terms to her. So anyway, long story short, I ended up telling her, you know what? I know you don't want to pay a realtor. That's okay. I'm going to prepare the contract for you so it's in your favor. I'm not your representation. I'm just creating this contract for you so that you can have something to take to an attorney. As a matter of fact, I'm going to refer you to a reputable attorney here that I utilize, and I'm going to let them know that you're coming. So I did all that. And then the last time she called me, she said, I want to pay you to represent me. What's hilarious about this is that I already did all the work. She could have, and she said, because I trust you to take care of me. And I appreciated that because she did have the money. She just didn't want to pay a realtor, but I didn't want to put her out there like that for her to be taken advantage of. And I don't think the person on the other side was attempting to take advantage of them. I just think they were not knowledgeable as well, So anyway, I put her before the prophets because I didn't want to send her out there. So I think that that's what sets us apart. God always blesses our business. And that came around a lot quicker than I expected. I said, because God will bless me another way. But she ended up paying me. So, and then send me a bonus.
Yeah, I know that's right. That's such a blessing, though, especially when you say protecting your elders,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and that's where a lot of our blessings come from.
Yes.
Yes.
Children and elders. I really believe
Yes.
that.
Me too. Yes, I do too. So what challenges have you faced as a Black woman leader in real estate, and how have you turned those challenges into strength?
I'm trying to be mindful of the way I say this. I think that being a woman is one story. Being a black woman is another story. Being a black woman in Mississippi is a whole nother story. So my biggest challenges have just been selling real estate while black in Mississippi. I'm just being honest because if you're a realtor, it's fine. If you are doing a lot of business, it's fine. But when you attempt to own, it's a whole nother story. So I've had to develop tough skin, which has been good for me because we've had attempts to close our brokerage for, reasons that, I won't even go into. But those have been the challenges. And then honestly, our own people sometimes they struggle with having a black woman as their authority, you know, and
Yes.
so I'm just trying to be mindful of the way I say things. But that really, for the most part, that has been my struggle is attempting to own versus just be successful, because it's a difference. You can be a real estate agent, you can be a realtor and be successful in real estate, and you can be a broker and be successful and that be fine. But to be a broker owner is a whole nother level and a different story. So I feel like getting navigating through those waters have developed me as a person, and also have helped me develop tough skin in a different way, because life gave me tough skin. But I never felt like my skin was an issue until I moved here. When I was in California, I don't even think anybody noticed or cared. Are you good at what you do, or are you not? Here it was, in Mississippi, it was very noticeable for me. So I have an office in Mississippi and Tennessee, and I can still tell the difference in even Mississippi and Tennessee. But I started out in Mississippi. So business is business, but getting people to see you as a person, a professional, someone with experience, in the state overall is just a little divided. And it's not because people are bad, it's because people don't understand each other. So they would rather stay on their side of the fence versus, collaborate. So that's been kind of a challenge for me. But I navigate the waters the way I navigate them, and I've been developed in that way, like I said, to just have tough skin and just keep pushing. And it's taught me, people. I've learned a lot about people, and I don't make assumptions, so I don't assume that somebody mean is racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just mean. They don't care what color you are. Uh,
Yes.
so, emotional intelligence is something that I ended up being very, very conscious about and learning and developing in that area, because you need emotional intelligence. And I didn't even consider that before. So I hope I answered that question.
You did perfectly.
Okay.
Especially like the part is like people just being naturally mean and just you developing so much, well, strengthening your discernment to actually know someone and know something, especially without them even speaking.
Yeah.
And like you go through so much, it's like, okay, I met one of you before.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
let me switch this up real quick and let me like you said, strengthen up your emotional intelligence so you're able to deal with that individual. And I don't think sometimes people don't realize on the other side of us becoming business owners, it starts to get so spiritual within you to a point God just shifts you in so many directions for you
Hmm.
to be able to handle his difficult children.
Yes, because in real estate, you have all types of people. Like, everybody needs a house. So you think about that. This is a basic need, a home, a place to live, to lay your head. So you deal with every single personality type there is to deal with. Because if you work in like a certain sect, you're only going to deal with certain types of people,
Mm.
because that's your market. That's your avatar. But in real estate, you deal with all kinds of people, and you have to learn how to hold yourself together, because people will say things and you're like, why would you even say that? Like, where people identify your color. I just had somebody recently say, um how did she put it, but she said black people. And I thought, well, that's
Mm.
rude, being that you're not black, you don't usually. But I thought to myself, where she's from, they don't see a lot of African Americans. So I didn't take that she was racist. I took it that she didn't understand that that wasn't okay to say in our area. So emotional intelligence, because somebody else would have said, I am not doing business with you, girl, because you don't have no respect for us. But I just said, God bless America.
No, for real. Oh my God. So you serve on a board of NAM MBA.
Mhm.
And
Namba.
what does the diversity in, like, what does it look like as far as practice and not just words within the real estate and mortgage industry?
Well, I do both. Like, I'm heavily involved in NAMBA and NAREB. NAREB is the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and they were created. We're all realtors too, but before realtors, Black people were realtists, because we couldn't be a part of the National Association of Realtors. So our people created NAREB, um, to for us to have something that we could call our own. So I say created for us by us. And so the whole goal of both of those organizations is to try to equal the playing grounds because everybody should be able to own homes. And we have so many different things that works against us, like appraisal biases. We have redlining, and you believe it or not, still in 21st century. And then sometimes they create these impossible qualifications for people, that it only affects the minorities. And so that's what we do with NAMBA and NAREB. We try to create opportunities. So it's not just, it's political. Once a year, we go, to the state, talk about the issues in the communities. And, we go to like the town hall meetings and stuff and talk about the things that, because sometimes it's not on purpose. It's just that they don't recognize that what they're doing is affecting only a certain sect of people. So just providing a voice to say, well, when you do this, this is what happens. Like I called a lender not long ago because I don't usually deal in the price point of like $100,000, but this I don't turn people away. Those they just don't usually come to me. But I had a client who had a house, an approval at like $110,000 or something, and he was gonna buy a house. It was a minority buying from another minority, and so there were some issues with the house that the lender was requiring the seller to fix in order for the buyer to buy it. The buyer was a construction person, so they said, "Oh, I could fix that. I'm not worried about that." Well, the lender said, "Well, it has to be fixed beforehand," and the seller said, "I can't afford to fix that." And so now they can't close the loan. And so I told the lender, I said, "Do you see the issue with this? You have a minority buyer who is very difficult to find a home for. You have a minority seller who can't afford now to sell. So he's going to have to sell his house to a cash buyer who is going to buy it for a lot less than it's valued at because we already had an appraisal, so we know what it's worth. He's going to have to sell it for a lot less than it's worth, and then he's going to rent it back to the same person that couldn't purchase it." I said, "So the buyer is losing and the seller is losing because of the terms that you guys set in place where you're not willing to do the lending." And she said, Telesa, I can't do anything about it. I said, "I just want to bring it to your attention because I do know that there are, she at her level couldn't do anything about it. But I'm
Right.
like, I want you guys to know that this is how this is affecting the minority because there should have been a way for him to sell and for him to buy. But now both of them lose.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that's about. It's just providing a voice to for the voiceless, the people that don't know how to communicate what's happening or not even understanding why they're not qualifying, or the education to tell them what they need to do. We offer financial education, so that they can learn about credit, why it's important, saving, and how to deal with your money. So there's just different things, but we also do fun stuff too. So
Well, being educated when it comes to purchasing homes and everything is so important because you have to always get the right information, and you don't
right.
want to get the information from someone that's educating you and teaching you how to scam and not actually do it the honest way as well.
That's right. And that's right. And I tell people all the time, it's a little difficult to get over on the government because they're the ones that's doing your taxes. They're the ones that do all these loans. They're the ones, so you can't, a lot of our people, and it's our people that's affected. And it's not our income anymore. We're still 15% behind in wealth. And
Yeah.
so it's not our income anymore. It's our inability to manage our money, and our lack of ownership and not understanding real estate. We are the only group of people that don't understand that real estate is not wealth unless it's moving. So you buy a house, that's not wealth. That's you owning a house that maybe you might pass down 30, 40 years from now, and the kids sell it and buy a belt because that's what they're doing in 21st century. um, they're selling the house, the land, they don't want it. Then they go and buy, luxury belts and stuff. But real estate builds equity. So you stay in the house, you get equity. If you can only afford to buy one house, you utilize that one house. You buy it for 50. Now it's 5 years from now, it's worth 100. So you sell it, you move it up. We call it the move up market. You
Market.
move up to it and you keep doing that until you have money that you can invest in something else or another house and then you're creating wealth that way. So, but we don't know that. So we're behind in knowledge in that area. So,
Yeah,
mm.
definitely are. You have so much wisdom.
Oh, thank you, girl.
You do. So, as a certified life coach and speaker, what reoccurring struggles do you see in women and how do you help them overcome it?
Well, I think women operate in a lot of fear, and I think the main thing would be relational. As I am open to any woman, but I attract black women for some reason. I think it's because I'm black. They see the melanin and they're drawn to me.
Yeah.
So my melanated sisters have challenges because they're so gifted, but they're scared of the gift. They don't trust men because of either what they've seen, what they've heard, or what they've gone through. So they want relationships, but don't know how to overcome whatever the roadblocks are. And sometimes this is the biggest thing I notice is that we are trauma filled and don't realize that, well, I feel like this because of this. It's like, I'm not saying that you don't have a reason to feel that way. All I'm saying is that that's a trauma response. I'm not saying that that didn't really happen. All I'm saying is that that's a trauma bond.
Mhm.
So most of our experiences and things form our mindsets and also the people we hang around and the things we listen to. And so our biggest struggle as black women is trust.
Yeah.
We'll say, well, I don't have no friends because I don't trust women like that. And my first question is, do you feel like you're trustworthy? Because I feel like we have to identify where this is coming from. And if you are not trustworthy, you're not going to trust anybody else because you're going to think they're going to do to you what you're doing to other women. Are you a trustworthy woman? So we'll start with that, identifying you and what you're struggling with. I can't trust a man. Why not? Sometimes we get rid of good men because we're trauma filled. If my husband had any kind of natural sense, he had God sense. Thank you, Lord Jesus. But if he had any kind of natural sense, he would have ran for the hills because I had so many trauma responses with him. Example, he called me silly one day and he was just laughing and that broke me. And I was so offended that he thought it was funny that he just called me silly. And I thought he was insulting me, and I was ready to just to leave. Like, I'm not gonna take that. I'm better than that now. I know myself better than that now. Fact is that silly in his household was a cute gesture.
Mm-hmm.
He came from, he if gentle parenting was a thing back then, he came from that type of parenting. And when he did something, his mom found amusing, she called him silly. I, on the other hand, was picked on and called silly because I was kind of a nerd where I read a lot and I wore my socks different. I was different from everybody. So that word silly triggered me. And so I feel like I see a lot of that in my sisters. It's like, girl, you gonna leave that man because of what? You
Mm-hmm.
were triggered. Did you ever? I wasn't triggered. I'm just not, no. Because my mama said,
Yeah.
okay, so your mama said, so let's get down to the bottom of that. So if I had to say one word that we as black women struggle the most with, it's trust.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that it's ourselves too that we struggle to trust. We
Yeah.
have all these gifts and desires, and I want to start a business, and I've been saying this for 10 years, and you see they got the skill, but they haven't gone any further than. So when it comes to coaching, I think relationally is my biggest. Um,
Yeah. It's like we have to find the root of it all when we go through many things because it be so deep within us that we had got comfortable with the new identity of us hiding the
yes.
reality to things. So when we actually just deal with things to a point when someone say things like you said what your husband did with triggers, that's when it starts to reappear and you have to have accountability on your actions on when you are traumatized from different things in life. I experienced that myself just with trauma and having trust issues when it comes to people and how
Hmm.
individuals treated me too, but I had to show myself accountability on why did I let them keep doing these things when I
Yes.
actually noticed they were doing it, and why was I thinking it was okay, and just different you just think of different angles, and at some point sometimes you have to blame yourself for a lot of things that are happening because you are the only one that have control of your life and the direction it's going, because you have all the power to change it.
Yeah, self accountability. That's a real big one. But sometimes I think for the most part we don't really know. But once we know, I did a patio conversation just recently here, which is kind of awesome because they bought like a buck of book. The one of the ladies that was there told some other ladies, and so yesterday they bought a buck of books, and then they asked me if I could come and speak. So that turned out good. But the lady there said they hadn't thought about it, but I'm triggered by the word friend,
Mm,
and I thought, because after we talked and stuff, and one of the ladies that was there was like friend talking to an actual friend, and she said, I realized I'm triggered by that word friend, and I just realized tonight. And she said, and I know why. It's because I've had this happen, and this lady was calling me her friend, and then did this, and then this lady was calling me her friend, and then did this, and so then when somebody says friend, I automatically shut down. So the fact that she recognized that means now she can be aware that that's why you feel like that, and that's why you're rolling your eyes at this lady who ain't did nothing to you, and that's why you feel this way, because we also have no grace when it comes to each other,
mm,
because of things like that, and we got to learn our triggers so then we can build relationships with each other, because I think black women are awesome, and I used to be so not into black women, and I tell you, I realized what it was. I was intimidated by black women, their strength, the ones that had it together. So I would draw back and I would think, they're going to think this about me. They're going to think this about me. Girl, that's what you think about yourself. That's
mm,
what that is. Them women ain't studying you. And so sometimes that's our thing, is that we run away from each other when actually that's where our strength is. We're stronger together. We just got to learn how we communicate. All of us have our triggers. And if we're not, you know, mature enough to admit that, hey, sis, I'm sorry. You probably didn't even mean it that way. But when you said this, it made me feel this way. And I'm sure it came from this. But the first step is being self aware. So you can't expect somebody to share something with you that they don't even know,
mm.
So, but we have to do the work.
Oh, tell me about it. We do have to do the work.
Hmm.
So, faith clearly guides your work. Can you share a moment when faith completely shifted the direction of your career or calling?
Hmm. Girl, my book, I'd have to say, it was a faith move, because I've been writing that book for 9 years.
Ooh, wait.
And the reason why is because every time I started writing it, I thought I was healed and realized I wasn't.
Mm,
I would start writing something and then I couldn't handle the pain of how it felt. And then I put it down for a while and I picked it up and I couldn't write. And I said, I don't even know what to write now. I don't know where to go with this. And I don't know if you believe in hearing the voice of God,
yes, I do.
but I went through a dry spell, and I wasn't going, because when I came from California, I was so exhausted from serving church, so exhausted from serving, that I tried to hide my gifts when I got here, because like nobody expects anything, because nobody expects anything from Fanny's daughter, and this and that and the other. I left here to become great. I couldn't become great here with the people that knew everything I did wrong, and they knew who my parents were. They were, judging me based on this and that and the other. I had to go somewhere else and find myself, without all the expectations. But I said that to say that when I got here, I went into a cocoon when it came to spiritual things. I would pray and stuff, but to myself. And then the more I did that, the more comfortable I got. And then I started trying to write the book without including God. I'm just being transparent. And I said, because I want everybody to be able to read this book. I don't want nobody to feel judged, blah, blah, blah. And then one day I started to tell God how I couldn't complete the book. And God said, I am the author and finisher of your faith. You're trying to write a book that I am the book without me. So you don't have nothing to say without me.
Mm,
Everything in that book is a story of God, God's goodness, his greatness, his love, his concern, his direction. And so I became closer to God while I was writing that book, because I, number one, I had to say, forgive me. Because if anybody doesn't want to read this book, because it is a story of God, because that's what it is God did this. And
Yeah.
so that's my most recent thing, where I mean, I honestly was just melted in the invisible lap of God, telling him, like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, because you did everything I am today. Because we say I'm alive because of God, but I'm literally alive because of God, because I would have taken my own life. And I tried to leave God out of it because I was thinking about the people.
Yeah.
And, and so everything that I've done, my husband, me getting on that one way flight that didn't make any sense to anybody, because I didn't tell nobody because it was so stupid. I My husband was on the other side of fear, which was flying. My business was on the other side of fear, which, when I made a decision that this is what God is telling me, the second location, the building came to me.
Mm.
I just cannot even, my face in God. And then here's what's crazy, because this is an honest, safe place and a platform for honesty. I can't even say it was my faith sometimes. I believe God and I believe in Him wholly, but sometimes the pressures of life can get so heavy to where you lose faith. But then God shows up anyway,
Yeah.
So I call it His resume. And Winchester here is real long, so that's why we related to Winchester. God's resume in my life is longer than Winchester. So if I get to telling you how my faith has played a part in my life, I'd have to tell you about my children, my baby who would have died if it wasn't for God, my husband who I would have not met if I hadn't got on that one way flight to do what he said do, and I wouldn't be in real estate if it wasn't for my husband, which I believe God opened the door. My whole life, everything that I used to think that made me undesirable,
Mm.
I believe that God said, I'm going to turn your ashes into, trade your ashes for beauty. And He did that. So what people see today is just a testament of me saying to God, after I heard the prayer of Jabez, I was so inspired by that prayer. And I cried when I heard a sermon about it. And I said, God, if you can do it for Jabez, you can do it for me. So I started praying daily that prayer of Jabez. And I said, Lord, I'm not supposed to be here. I know, because my mom was 13 years old when she got pregnant with me. My dad was married, and we come from a heavily um, religious family, Pentecostal, and I knew that I wasn't supposed to be here. And I said, but oh, that you would bless me, that you would enlarge my territory. And I also told God that I'll go where other people won't go, meaning the Christians. You can send me anywhere. And I prayed that every day. And God did bless me, and He enlarged my territory. And I tell people now, when they ask, what did I do and this and that and the other, I said, I submitted and I prayed and I asked and God delivered. That's all I got. I wish it was more dramatic,
Mm.
but
Girl, that
God,
was beautiful. And then it's beautiful because I don't think a lot of people really understands that it's okay to not have faith at certain moments. It's okay to feel humanized to a point where everybody has their moments when they want to give up. Everybody has their moments of like, God, why? Why are you
right.
sending me this, and why are we going through this? And you have many whys, but it's just the fact of like, after the storm of everything happening, he just brings so much joy and peace to you. And once that level's over, you do go through things all over again with something else totally different. But it's like every time we experience these different things of us having this relationship with God, it always ends with an elevation. It
Mhm.
always ends of us helping someone else.
Yes.
It always sharpens us up mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So for us to always become a better version of ourselves. But it's just us being consistent and us being surrendering to God to actually get us to where we gotta go. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that. I do. I honestly do believe that when you ask God for growth and greatness, that you can expect more than the average. Because at the end of the day, sometimes I ask myself, I was like, why are these people so much happier than most people? Because some people are just, and I don't know if they're genuinely happy because, like I told you, I used to dance on tables, at the restaurant, like happy birthday, not like literally dance on tables because
I know
I,
what you
wasn't
mean.
a stripper, but even though my little ladies in training once said, Miss T, no, Lady T, so they call me Lady T. Lady T, somebody told me you was a stripper. I said, sweet girl, I said, that's the one thing I did not do. But let me tell you something. If Lady T could dance, she probably would have been on a pole. But does that change who I am to you today? So honestly, I probably would have been on a pole, but God didn't want that to be my testimony, so he didn't give me a gift to dance. But
Crazy. Oh, that is
yeah, but
that's
yeah, girl.
hilarious. But okay, so we about to talk about this lit program that you have.
Okay.
Um, as far as you empowering young girls with etiquette and confidence, why do you think mentorship and early development are so crucial for the next generation of women leaders?
Well, personally, I think that for me, I focus kind of on our girls only because it's not really accessible because we are really the community that are kind of behind in that area for the most part. And not just our community, but the minority, you know, the people who are not financially financially stable. I'm going to put it like that, financially stable. We don't tend to get our girls the classes that they need to grow and to develop into young women versus other cultures. They send their kids to school of grace. That could be $5,000 though. The it's an expensive lesson, and a lot of people can't afford to send their kids to do this. Now, see, I was in California, and everything that I do developed from something that happened. And I met a lady and she offended me, if I'm being honest. She told me that I was smart and intelligent, but she also told me that I lacked grace. So I come from the hood. And so, yeah, of course, I don't know how to be graceful in certain environments, but she told me that's what was holding me back. And I told her with all my attitude, I can afford that. And
Wow.
she said, did I ask you for your money? And she was a black lady. And I just thought it was so impressive that a black woman was just this graceful, and she had all this knowledge and just the way she carried herself and how much she knew. So she taught me so many things that opened doors for me that I didn't even know was necessary. So
Mm,
then I realized that sometimes our girls are not held back like they think they're held back because of their race or whatever. No, it's not what you know, it's what you don't know that's holding you back. So now they end six-figure job um, interviews at a dining table, and you don't know how to properly dine, and you think that Becky got chosen over you because Becky is better or because it's your color or whatever, and you leave with your tail tucked between your legs, but actually it's because you were rude, because you didn't know what topics to speak on, because you didn't know what fork to use, you didn't know how to stay in your, I call it your place, but we should be in every room, and we should be that we want to be in, and we should be able to own the room that we're in. And so I find that our girls um, struggle with self-esteem when they're in those type of environments,
yeah,
because as a real estate agent, I don't want to feel like I just got to do business with black people because I'm black, right? I want
right.
to feel like I can do business with anybody who wants to do business with me. But confidence is the reason why you can do that. So I talk to the girls about the way they enter a room. Are you entering a room with your head down? Like, are you walking super fast? Are you bending over versus, leaning to the side? So I teach them things that would give them the confidence to be in another room. And I teach them about, because I grew up saying yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And I always thought that that was the proper thing to do. But I didn't know that when you get into certain areas, that's offensive.
Yeah.
And I had to learn the hard way. People are like, I'm not. your mama? Like I'm not that old. They say stuff like that. And so I taught the girls, when you leave Mississippi, I need you to say yes. And I need you to say no. And I need you not to be talking politics. I need you, so
Yeah.
we would have these type of conversations, and I would go into certain neighborhoods where the girls just had so much attitude. And I had to let them know, baby, listen, these streets y'all think y'all running, I created the path. So don't let these hills or any of this fool you. I've been here, done that, and I'm here for you. And sometimes you have to get down to their level. Remember having to tell them, do you guys know how much money I make? Because they were being so rude. I said, I don't normally tell people how much money I make, but I'm going to let y'all know today so y'all can realize how much of my time y'all wasting, because
Mhm.
I'm here for y'all. There's nothing in this for me other than to see y'all be great. So I told him, I said, I let them guess, and they were nowhere close. I said, so I am giving up my time for y'all. And so some with our community, they have to know that they're not going to run you off my community, because I go into my community where I was raised for the most part. And then I model that in others. But I grew up in Bahalia. And so there, I was a terrible mess. Girl, when I tell you, I tore those streets up. I did the absolute most. And so for me, my goal is to go back in that community and teach those girls grace. And I call it transitional etiquette, because I'm like, you don't have to sit straight up and you at grandmama's house. Because my grandma said, girl, what's wrong with your back? When I was, what is wrong with you? So I'm like, go to the barbecue, hang out, chill, do what you do. But just know, when you're in this environment, this is what's expected of you.
Mhm.
So I love, 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 love. And I feel like we need to start early, because the world would just be a better place if kids learn to be proper in the proper place, and really it's to be respectful, to have manners, to know when to say excuse me, thank you, because it's dead. It seems like when they first come in there, I'm like, I know your parents taught you to say, to the very least, to say thank you. And some
Yeah.
of them be like, yeah, they did. Yeah. They coming there, they slumming in the
Yeah.
chairs. And I'm like, sit up, please.
Yeah.
Then they have their sitting with their legs open. It's like, baby, as my grandma used to say, close your pocketbook. Or my stepmom, close your purse, baby. Your change gonna fall out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love ladies in training. It's a little different because we do talk about confidence instead. How you walk in the room, how you deal with social media. We talk heavily on bullying. Excuse me, because I do want them girls to understand. Because I've seen it in my class where they make fun. This girl got on these shoes and they're making fun, and I'm like, do you guys want to be responsible of pushing somebody over the edge, jumping off the building that day, or pulling them off? And it could be something so simple as because you can find something nice about everybody. So something is, I like your dress. If you don't like their shoes, don't lie, because we all know you're lying. But you could say something like, you have a nice dress. Find something nice about that person. That may be all they need to change their trajectory of the day. And so I teach stuff like, practical things along with the manners and what it is that they, need to know to be in a proper setting. So we teach it all, and sometimes it takes a turn. You know, that's that's how it is when we're dealing with girls who aren't used to that type of class or whatever. Sometimes it takes a turn, and we have to start dealing with the behavior at hand. Like I've had to talk to a young lady where I was gonna put my arm on her, and she said, "Don't touch me," and it was just the tone she used. And I had to start talking to her about boundaries. And I said, I appreciate that you have a boundary. And I'm going to respect your boundary, because you should be able to tell somebody not to put their hands on you and they respect that. I said, but I am going to have to ask you to use a different tone the next time. I said, your body, you should be able to control it. But then later on, found out that she had been sexually abused and she was going through some things. And so, I'm glad I didn't respond harshly because she
Yeah.
didn't want to be touched. But then I shared a picture on my social media, because I was like, this is my favorite. It's not my best picture, but she came up to me and she hugged me and she was holding me and she did not want the classes to end. And I said, this is what happens when we take the time, to love on our girls and let them know, you have a right to feel the way you feel.
Mhm.
And she was my toughest child. But the last time I seen her, when I did etiquette at the school that she attended, she was like a different young lady.
Wow.
And She walked up and she hugged me and said, "Hey," I was like, "How are you?" Of course, I remembered her, but she was a different girl. So it's really rewarding.
Yeah, it is. I had a girls program myself, and it's it's therapeutic. Honestly, it's very therapeutic just to even help them and guide them because they need a village. They really do. The inner city youth, they go through so much, and
Yes,
the parents go through a lot. The grandparents, everyone go through a lot where no one has time for themselves and definitely
yes,
don't have time for each other. So it's like everyone is navigating on autopilot, just going for whatever they know, whatever they see. They're just living,
yeah,
really. They're just here in existence.
yeah.
It's a
Girl,
lot.
life is hard, and people do definitely need help. And sometimes, teaching the kids, like I taught the kids how to properly interrupt. And a girl came back and she said, "My mommy was upset." And she's like, "What are you doing?" And she knocked, she knocked my hand off her shoulder. Because I was like, instead of interrupting your parents, put your hand on your shoulder, allow your parents to touch your hand. So I had to I realized from that, I was like, I need to teach the parents too, because
Yeah,
the parents don't know that that's how they should be properly interrupting them. And then they like, "Why are you standing here with your hand on my shoulder?" When hand on the shoulder, the parent does this to say, "I acknowledge you, give me a minute." And then the
yeah,
parent continues to speak, and then when they finish, then they can acknowledge the child. So that's how I teach the kids, and that was hilarious to me. I said, "Okay, sweetheart, I apologize about that, and I'll talk to your mom about it." She said, "Girl, because I sure was like, girl, why is you standing with your hand on my shoulder?"
oh my God.
So I
So
said, "Yeah, that's something I got to make sure to tell the parents about when I'm teaching the kids that, so that they can be involved in
yeah.
it as well." So yeah,
Yes. So, with all that you accomplish as a broker, coach, author, wife, mother, grandmother, what does legacy mean to you?
legacy to me at this stage of life really just means options, just like success. I just want my kids and my grandkids to have options, and I want them to be educated, because education leads to options as well. I think crime is because people feel like they don't have no options. I think that people give their kids away, people commit suicide, they do all these different things because they feel like there are no options. So if I can create a legacy of options where my kids have a choice, and they know that I offer choices and options for other people, show people a different way, to me, that is legacy, you know, at this stage.
Yes, definitely. So, if you could leave one patio conversation question for every woman listening today, what would it be?
A question, a question that they would ask themselves, or a question that I would ask them.
A question for a woman that could ask themselves that are listening.
Mm. I think the most impactful question that we can ask ourselves is, who are we?
Mm,
That's where everything starts, is
yeah.
who are you? And it really starts you to unpacking things, because who are you will show you where you come from. It will bring about your lifestyle, because you ask yourself, who are you? And then you ask, why are you? And, everything unfolds from there.
So the women struggling to move forward from her past, what's the first step she should take today to reclaim her identity?
The first step she should take today, because everything is a process, I would say today, acknowledgement. And the way I would say the first thing you do to acknowledge where you are is to find the person that you trust, that will be looking at you from as if you're in a frame, because those people see who you are, they see how you act, and then allow them to be honest with you, if that makes any sense. Because I can see you in the frame right now, and I can tell you exactly what I see. So that's how I started. I started asking my kids, what do you guys see? Started asking my husband, what do you see? I asked myself first, what do I see? So you got to start looking at yourself first. That's how you identify what's going on, and that's how the work starts. Because without asking yourself the hard questions, you'll never get to the results that you're looking for.
No, that is facing reality.
That's exactly what it is. It's facing reality. You have to ask yourself, if all of my friends are saying the same thing about me, are they wrong or am I wrong? If every guy that I lose, are they the problem or am I the problem? Am I attracting this or is it just coming to me? And nine times out of 10, if we're attracting the same thing, it's because it's what something that's within us that's drawing that thing. So you're not just attracting the same type of man in a different body if it's not something in you that's drawing that same type of man. So we genuinely have to say, this is my problem. And then we have to ask ourselves, what
Mhm.
about me is causing this same issue? Because most of it is repetition. And I'll say this last thing about that is that we have to ask ourselves, are we in a season or are we in a cycle? I was telling somebody not long ago, because she would always say, well, this is just a season. And I told her there's a difference in seasons and cycles because seasons change. If you're constantly going through the same thing over and over and over and over and there's nothing changing, that's a cycle. The
Mhm.
seasons are going to change. The summer, spring, winter, fall, they're going to change. But if you're going through the same thing, it's a cycle. So we need to identify our cycles so that we can break them. And that
Yes,
takes consciousness to break a cycle.
yes, it does.
Hmm.
So, how can people purchase your book, connect with you, even maybe even hire you as a realtor? How can anyone get in contact with you and follow everything that you have going on?
Okay, so I'm on Facebook and Instagram. My website for my book is www.lookbackforwhat.com, just like the title of the book. My website for my brokerage is bespokerealty.net. So if you go on my website for the book or for my real estate, then you'll see all of my connections, like for Facebook, Instagram, and all those different sites. So you can get my book on Amazon. I prefer you get it on my website, but you can get it on Amazon. It's available on Target. It's available at barnesandnoble.com. Uh, it's I mean, they got it on eBay. Almost any site you can get the book on. So I prefer you get it from my website again, lookbackforward.com. But
That's a blessing.
any support is appreciated.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you so much. I enjoyed getting to know you. I enjoyed even just talking to you. You are an amazing woman.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you because I tell everybody my strength is writing. My strength is not speaking really. I just feel like it's something God is telling me to get out of my comfort zone to do. I feel more comfortable writing you a letter than calling you on the phone. I feel more comfortable texting you than calling you on the phone, and I feel more comfortable writing in a book versus doing an interview. But hey, here I am.
Yes, you here. And
So,
got plenty more to come.
well, I appreciate you speaking life into me.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you everyone for tuning in to Life Heard Podcast. May you subscribe on YouTube and also listen to Life Heard Podcast on all audio platforms.